Hello everyone, my name is Lucy. Welcome to my channel, Simple Sunday Afternoons. I'm really happy you're here with me today. For today's recipe, I'm making something really special. I'm making sweet potatoes, or what is called in Puerto Rico, batata dulce, and I'm stuffing the dish with pork sirloin, or what is called pernil. So please join me in my kitchen or stay here with me to make this wonderful and delicious dish. And the first thing I'm going to be doing in this recipe is preparing 4 pounds or 1.989 kilograms of pork sirloin. And for this I'm going to need 1 tablespoon or 11 grams of rosemary. Also I'm going to be using 2 tablespoons or 30 milliliters of lemon juice, the same amount of orange juice, 1 tablespoon or 15 grams of fresh oregano, 2 tablespoons or 44 grams of kosher salt, 1 garlic head, which is about 8 to 10 garlic cloves, 1 tablespoon or 11 grams of black pepper, 4 culantro leaves, and you can always substitute the culantro leaf if you don't have them for cilantro leaves, and 1/4 of a cup or 59 milliliters of olive oil. And I'm going to be making a paste-like consistency with all of these ingredients in my electric food processor. I want this meat to get all the flavors from the herbs and spices, and for that I'm making some deep incisions into the meat. This meat will have a lot of Puerto Rican flavors and will be tender also. I'm going to let this meat marinate for 3 to 4 hours. We can also let it marinate overnight in the fridge if we have the time to do so. At the end of roasting, this meat needs to be very tender. I'm using the small Dutch oven to roast the pork at 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 175 degrees Celsius for 3 hours. I use aluminum foil so I don't struggle cleaning up after. I'm using the kind of sweet potato that is most common here in Puerto Rico. We usually use this white kind of sweet potatoes, but you can use any kind you like. I'm going to be peeling these sweet potatoes and I'm going to be cutting them in small little squares. Boil them with about 1 tablespoon of salt until they are tender. I'm also going to be making a traditional sofrito, and for that I'm going to be using 14 ounces or 406 grams of smoked pork shoulder of what I call salted cooking ham, 1/4 of a cup or 59 milliliters of tomato paste, or you can use 8 ounces of tomato sauce, 1/4 of a cup or 59 milliliters of olive oil, a bunch of 8 to 10 leaves of culantro leaves, 12 to 15 mini sweet peppers, 1 cubanero green or red pepper, 1 garlic head or 8 to 10 garlic cloves, and 1 medium onion. I mashed all the garlic cloves and diced all the other ingredients, and I'm cooking the ham in the olive oil until it's completely brown. Then I add the onions and wait until they are translucent. Then I add all of the other ingredients for the sofrito. Once all the herbs and spices are mixed in the pan, then I go ahead and add the tomato paste. And because I'm using tomato paste instead of tomato sauce, I have the need to add a little bit of water to make sure everything is mixed well together. Let everything cook in medium heat for about 5 minutes and then you can turn off the stove. After 3 hours in the oven, I retire the roast and I'm going to shred the whole entire meat into little tiny pieces. I'm making sure I take away all of the bones that were in the roast. After 20 to 25 minutes boiling in water, the sweet potatoes are ready to be drained and mashed. So let's go ahead and mash the sweet potatoes and have them ready to add some other ingredients, which I'm going to tell you in a little bit. So now it's time to put this dish together. So I have ready the shredded pork, along with 1 stick of unsalted butter. And I have 1 teaspoon or 1 gram of ground nutmeg. And this is the sofrito that we already prepared. 1 cup or 240 milliliters of heavy cream. 8 ounces or 227 grams of Edam cheese. And this is the queso de bola that is very well known in Puerto Rico. You can also use Parmesan cheese. If you have it available, you can have it ready for serving. And the mashed sweet potatoes. In a large frying pan, we're going to mix the sofrito with the heavy cream. Let it boil together and then we're going to start adding the shredded pork. I'm going to add all of the shredded pork to the sofrito mix. Mix well together and let it cook in medium temperature for about 5 minutes. In the meantime, we can start preparing the mashed sweet potatoes. I melted the butter because the sweet potatoes are already cooled off. So I'm adding the melted unsalted butter and I'm adding the nutmeg and mix well together. Your oven should be preheated at 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 175 degrees Celsius. For this dish, I'm using a lasagna pan which I sprayed with non-stick cooking spray. I'm going to spread a layer of the mashed potatoes in the bottom of the pan. Then, as a second layer, I'm going to put all of the shredded meat. Make sure the meat is really packed together before we start adding the third layer, which is the rest of the sweet potatoes. I place small amounts of sweet potatoes all over the top of the meat, so it will be easier to spread it evenly over the meat. When spreading the potatoes, try not to disturb the layer of the meat. Now that we have spread the sweet potatoes over the meat, then we go ahead and add the cheese. And I'm using the Edam cheese, but if you have a variation of cheeses in your fridge, you can use those as well. And this dish will go into the oven for 30 to 40 minutes or until the cheese becomes golden brown. When it's taken out of the oven, let it rest for 10 to 15 minutes before you start cutting. And I really hope you like this recipe because it is truly delicious. If you like this video, don't forget to click like and subscribe to see more. Thanks for watching. Buen provecho. I'm going to make sweet potatoes stuffed with pork chop. Please join me in my kitchen to make this wonderful and delicious dish. Sweet potatoes, sweet with pork. Sweet with pork. So please stay with me in my kitchen to make this wonderful and delicious dish. Sweet potatoes stuffed with pork sirloin.